This is a Wave breaking news alert.
Breaking right now at 5. We've been watching and waiting for hours as crews work to free a man who's trapped after he fell into a demolition site near downtown Louisville. We thank you for watching Wave News at 5. I'm Myra. Sorry.
I'm John Bull. We've been glued to the rescue efforts that have now carried on into a 5th hour. The collapse happened at the site of the former Community Correction Center that sits on East Chestnut Street near U of L Hospital.
And we've been on the scene since this happened. Right now around noon, that's when it happened. And we have live team coverage tonight of the rescue. We start with Wave News reporter David Mattingly, who has been watching all of this unfold.
Myra, 5.5 hours now since that worker fell into what rescuers are calling a void here at this construction site. When he fell in, the debris, the masonry, the dirt, everything that was piled up in the area fell in there with him. He was trapped, and where he continues to be trapped at this hour. Now, we have a really good vantage point of what's going on, a camera position in the parking deck next to the construction site. Take a look for yourself. You can see what's going on. There's probably about 30 firefighters here. Now, they're not moving around a lot right now because of the way this operation is going. We have, for the last hour, maybe the last 2 hours, have watched them literally removing dirt and debris from that hole, one bucket at a time. They have to move very carefully here. The last thing they want is for the tons of rubble that's just outside that hole to come collapsing in on the worker who's in there right now. And we hear some equipment revving up right now, indicating that they're still actively trying to pull more things, more debris out of that pit so they can get to that worker. And I don't know if you can hear me over the noise right now. It's really getting a bit noisy right now. But I've described this before as sort of like a very high stakes game of Jenga. One wrong move here and everything could go wrong. One thing is moved the wrong way, tons of debris could be falling in on that worker, and the last thing they want is for that to happen, and for that to happen for the rescuers who are going in to take care of him. At this point, they are continuing to build walls around where that worker is to prevent any more debris and material from collapsing in. They're trying to make it as safe as possible before they try to pull him out. But here we are, 5.5 hours later, and that still has not happened. We heard from the chief earlier today, and here's what he said about the difficulties of this job.
This is a very, very slow process. So you need to understand this might take another hour or 3 to gradually, because every time you shift anything, that can cause other things to happen within all that debris pile that they're moving to get to this person.
That 3-hour estimate that you just heard the chief give was overly optimistic. Here we are at the 5.5 hour mark, and they are still looking for a safe way to get the rescuers in there and get the worker out. Reporting live, David Mattingly, Wave News.
Okay, David, now people have been stopping by that site all afternoon, watching the rescue efforts as well.
Wave News reporter Fernando Garcia Franceschini spoke to some of those people, and Fernando, they say it was just really a shocking scene.
Yeah, they told me it feels like it's straight out of a movie. Like David was mentioning, the stakes are high in this situation. But I'm just going to walk out of the frame so you can take a look at what's going on behind me. So you see that is actually the parking garage, and you can see people on what you would think is a balcony just looking over, trying to see what's going on, trying to get a sense as to what's happening, what the latest developments are. So instead of going straight to their cars as they leave the hospital, people have just been trying to stop by. Some of them telling me they've been trying to read lips of the workers, trying to understand what's happening. I actually did get a chance to talk to a woman who works at a downtown hospital, and she's worked there for 35 years. She tells me, of course, she's used to the construction by now, and she says she usually sees people working on cranes and that sort of equipment. So she tells me this is just a tragic situation.
It's like, oh, I hope nobody's hurt really bad, because it's been pretty calm just, construction every day trying to get rid of the building.
She actually found out about this and what was going on through a friend who called her, asking her why all the roads in this area of town were shut off. And other people who didn't want to go on camera echoed those feelings. Everyone hoping that that worker is going to end up being okay. Again, many of them telling me that they didn't know what was going on, but they were trying to read lips of some of those emergency crews and first responders trying to get the latest updates. For now, though, reporting live, Fernando Garcia, Francis Cheney, Wave News.
Fernando, thank you, and we'll continue bringing you live, updated coverage as the crews continue to try to save that trapped worker. You can see we've got a great camera vantage point literally right above it. You can download our Wave News app in your phone's app store. You can also check alerts both on air and online at wave3.com.
And we're also still monitoring the investigation after the Givaudan factory explosion on Tuesday. 2 of their employees were killed in the explosion and 11 others were injured. The blast also impacted residents and businesses in the nearby Clifton neighborhood. We saw a lot of damage to homes, with many homeowners worried about what to do next. Mayor Greenberg says that he hopes the factory leaders can get out in the community to keep in contact with those impacted.
I think the most important thing is to call your insurance company. Please do reach out to MetroSafe. And again, we are encouraging the company to get back out into the neighborhood, to provide more information to people who have been impacted by that. We're going to continue to do that throughout the day to encourage that communication.
And in our talks with neighbors, some have called for the removal of the plant in their neighborhood. This is what Mayor Greenberg said about the plant's future.
But I hope that the company considers a different location. I think there are better locations in the city of Louisville for a facility like this. There are other locations that are by rail lines that are easy to get to and from, that are not in such close proximity to so many houses.
And when we spoke to Councilman Andrew Owen, who represents the district in that area where that blast happened, he said that he wants to see the plant remain in the city. The investigation into the blast is ongoing.
The extent of the damage from the explosion remains widespread. Here's a look at just some of the areas that were damaged from the blast. We heard so many accounts and saw many people's homes either badly damaged or impacted somehow by the explosion. That included this giant piece of debris that flew onto a woman's yard in the Clifton neighborhood. It's believed to be a tanker from the factory. And we also got a look inside this man's home. Destroyed inside. Much of his belongings were knocked to the ground, from the door frame to other household items. The man's windows were also busted out. He said he was just grateful to be alive, but also incredibly angry. There will also be damage to the businesses in the area. Quill's Coffee, Saka on Frankfurt Avenue, and other businesses had their windows shattered when the explosion hit yesterday afternoon. Now, here's an important reminder. If your property was damaged, the mayor and the fire department are asking anybody who finds any debris or damage, don't touch it, don't move it. You're asked to call MetroSafe and report it. That number is 574-2117.
And Quill's Coffee Shop reopened today after the shop's windows were blown out during the factory explosion. This is what it looked like when we stopped by their location on Frankfurt Avenue this morning. All the windows, they were replaced after shattered glass riddled the sidewalk following the blast. The other nearby businesses had their glasses shattered, including Osaka, as we mentioned. And right now, officials are still trying to figure out what caused that blast.
All right, it's trying to dry out, right, after so much rain. Wondering how much we got and where we go from here.
Yeah, and with everything going on between the investigation into the explosion, the rescue downtown, a good thing it's not raining.
Yeah, for sure. It's finally out of here. One thing that was a little unnerving last night was the rumbles of thunder. It was like, what's going on? It was just lightning and thunder. We had some heavy rain push through over the last 24 hours, finally drying out, and in some cases, like down in Bardstown, seeing the clouds thin out just a bit. Temperatures are cool. We've been in the 50s all day. We're still at 55 in Louisville. Going to hold in the 50s through the evening hours. It's a slow drop with the cloudy skies. Those clouds, they're not going anywhere anytime fast. That simply means while the rain may be moving to the east, the clouds will linger tonight and much of the day tomorrow. The next 12 hours showing temperature trend holding pretty steady in the low 50s right into the overnight tonight. We've got an active 10-day forecast to talk about. We'll go through the ups and downs on that with the alert days included in just a few few minutes.
Thank you, Kevin. To a listing that shows Mid-City Mall in the Highlands neighborhood is for sale. The property is 11 acres, has various businesses inside, including Baxter Avenue Theaters, Caravan Comedy Club, Ramen House, and more. The listing doesn't have an asking price for the property, just telling interested buyers to submit an offer.
Well, new here at 5:30, we are learning more about the process to move residents out of Dosker Manor. We're going to share how many people they've been moved and the services being offered to them.
And we'll take a deeper look at the history of the plant that's at the center of this explosion in Clifton. Alina Nook shares what she found after the break.
This newscast is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Now, Wave News.
As everybody's waiting on the results of the investigation into Tuesday's Givaudan factory explosion, we are looking back at when the factory and the neighborhood experienced the exact same horrifying moment.
On an early April morning in 2003, an explosion killed a Louisville man, Louis Perry, and then damaged the factory. Wave News reporter Alina Noakes looks back at what investigators learned from that blast.
John, Myra, what you see behind me is eerily similar to what people saw back in 2003 when this color factory was nothing but a scrap of metal. It took investigators 11 months to piece together what exactly happened in that explosion and what changes needed to be made in order for it to never happen again. That blast happened on April 11th of 2003 at around 2 a.m. Louis Perry was drying a batch of caramel coloring when he found that the tank had begun to overheat. Investigators would find that the tank had previous damage and a safety valve to prevent overheating had been removed. They also found that the company did not have any adequate hazard analysis and no proper training for employees to respond to overheating. They believe Perry was standing right next to the tank when it exploded and he was killed. Here's what Louisville Fire had initially said about that blast back in 2003.
Report from the one worker was that the product was leaking down one of the tanks. That's when he went to alert the maintenance supervisor, and that's when the explosion occurred.
Now, a tank of ammonia that is used in the production of the caramel color fell and leaked 26,000 pounds. Witnesses at the time were evacuated and recalled not being able to breathe because that smell was so strong. Investigators noted that if the tank had been punctured at any point, the impact would have been a lot worse. Now, the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board issued 10 recommendations at that time for the factory to adopt and comply by. We're going to take a look back at the immediate aftermath following that explosion and what community members were calling for even back then, coming up at 6. Live in the Clifton neighborhood, Alina Noakes, Wave News.
All right, thank you, Alina. Well, a new barber shop is open inside one JCPS school. We're going to see why school leaders hope that it'll keep students in the classroom.
And then in weather, we're keeping an eye to the sky. We've got the clouds that are going to linger for a while, but at least the rain continues to move out. We're going to tackle the weekend and beyond with the 10-day earliest alert. A couple of big weather makers to talk about coming our way next week. Here are tonight's Kentucky Lottery jackpots. The Powerball at $130 million. The Mega Millions at $387 million.
The Kentucky Lottery, over $5 billion in grants and scholarships.
Well, a lot of people will tell you if you look your best, you feel your best. So one school program is helping students build up their confidence with free haircuts. A new barbershop just opened up at Olmsted Academy North. Students will now have access to free haircuts while at school. The initiative was spearheaded after an LMPD officer's encounter with a student whose family couldn't afford to pay for haircuts. Now, while in the chair, barbers will also have a chance to have discussions about life with the boys at the school.
So a lot of times if they're not in school for one reason or another, then they're not here to learn that curriculum. So it could be a haircut, it could be they're going through something in their lives personally. We just need to get them here. So I think the barbershop is one more step to help to get them in the building.
And the barbershop will service around 9 to 10 haircuts per day based on grade level. Parents can sign their students up for an appointment. There's also a barbershop like this one at Newburgh Middle School.
Louisville Ballet is bringing a different edge to storytime at the library this season. Nutcracker Family Storytimes is returning to select library locations starting Monday. Families are going to be able to listen to 2 Louisville Ballet dancers read the classic holiday story, The Nutcracker, while in costume. There will also be music, dancing, arts and crafts going along with the free event. Plus, one family at each event walks away with 4 tickets to see Louisville Ballet's production of the Brown-Forman Nutcracker. There are 7 sessions happening through December 5th. For a list of locations and times, head over to wave3.com.
All right, nothing says the holidays more like a Nutcracker.
No,
right?
When you start talking about the Nutcracker, that just connotates cold, right? You start thinking of winter and Christmas, and then, oh, along comes this guy with a 10-day forecast.
Crash back into the 20s. Who's not ready after that story?
Yes.
Yes.
Bring it then.
I tell you, what a soaking rain we had, though, huh?
Yeah.
Like, the yard is just like mush.
Puddles.
Yeah, it's rough. We saw over 3 inches of rain here in Louisville. Down in Bardstown, they didn't have quite that much. You can still see a mostly cloudy sky, and that's going to linger for the next little bit. The good news is, if you have the Wave Weather app, you've noticed not just in Louisville, but all around us, the rain is moving out. So we're going to wind up seeing the clouds linger, but at least the rain is easing for this evening and on into tonight. We do have the next big weather maker already in focus. We'll get through a dry but cloudy Friday, a decent weekend, and then our attention turns to next Tuesday. Oftentimes, they like to start with a weather headline or the next big weather maker. Tuesday brings a storm chance. It's not a guarantee at this point. We went ahead and flagged it as an alert day because the fact is we could have some strong storms around. We have the cold front that's going to move in. Moisture's coming up from the south, could be tropical in nature. Our temperatures are going to be in the low 70s by that point. The deal is the instability looks to be limited. If that increases, the storm chance goes up. If that decreases, the storm chance goes down. So we'll be keeping an eye on Tuesday for the opportunity for some of those stronger storms. Let me get you outside. I mentioned down in Bardstown it was mostly cloudy. It is that way everywhere. We've seen the clouds not really budge much today. The next 12 hours features a mostly cloudy sky, but generally dry. Temperature is going to be dropping near 50 by early tomorrow morning. Most of you will drop into the 40s. It's a uniform drop because of the cloud cover, and a slow drop at that. 55 in the city, but areas surrounding us are in the lower 50s. We push the rain across East Kentucky. The clouds will stick around for at least this evening and really throughout the day tomorrow. They break up a bit by Saturday, giving way to a partly sunny sky. High pressure building in back across the central part of the country. That again clears those folks out. Temperatures out there are actually warming, and some of that warmer air, at least back in the 60s, will arrive here for Saturday and Sunday. Hey, speaking of Friday night, if the clouds break up, the full moon visible at its fullest at 4:28 on Friday afternoon. It's the full Beaver supermoon that we have. If you're headed to the high school football games, look up. You may catch at least a peek or two of the full moon with temperatures falling back into the lower 50s and upper 40s. Our current temperature is 55. You'll notice today's high, well, we made it to in the upper 50s. That's close to average for this time of year. Tonight, 48 for that low temperature. And in the temperature scale for tomorrow, we go up 10 degrees, 58. The 10-day forecast shows the active weather that we have. That's a Tuesday alert day and a Friday alert day. Storms on Tuesday and a big blast of cold air, maybe even a few snowflakes possible by the end of next week. But a pretty nice weekend with highs in the 60s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. We want to go back to this breaking news that we're following here in downtown Louisville, where a rescue operation is going on right now. Construction worker fell through that hole there at a demolition site. They lowered a crane down there, so it looks like they are hopefully making some progress there in getting him out.
Yeah, our reporter on the scene, David Madigan, likened all this to Jenga. When you watch it live, it doesn't appear like they're moving very fast. It's because they have to be very, very careful, small amounts of soil, bucket full at a time, because the big fear is the wall of volume of debris and rock and stone that could fall on the man who fell in the hole. And you can see in the corner there on the left-hand side, it looks like they're shining a light in there. It's going to get dark soon, so they are trying to prepare for if this rescue operation goes into the hours of the night where it gets dark, that they have enough light to kind of see what they're dealing with, because you can imagine it's going to get very dark underneath there. Right. We're going to keep you posted here. We've got to Okay, I'm told we're going to hit another shot here. Again,
a closer look at the crane. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Hopefully, if we can lower that bottom third so we can see what they're doing.
They're going to lower. Okay, they got a can. They're going to lower that down to the worker.
Yeah. So he's been in there since around 11:30 around noon today. So it's been several hours now. We're almost going on 5.5 hours that he's been stuck in there.
One of the issues is we haven't really ever, I believe, gotten a clear look at the person, right? Like
no.
You can't see him with the naked eye down in there.
And the way he fell in there, he fell into that hole, and then that debris fell on top of him. Thankfully, he is still able to breathe. He is a Spanish-speaking worker out there. There's a captain with Louisville Fire Department who is able to communicate with him and talk with him as, you know, the hours have gone by.
Yeah, so we can see, you know, in the hole right now, they're throwing a rock or two here and there. They got the light down on it. About 4 or 5 guys down in the hole. Our crew cannot get close enough to hear any of the interactions that may be going on, you know, the directions and what the plan is. But again, you see they just removed another bucket with some soil there. You see, just like David Mattingly was saying, just a bucket at a time, slowly removing soil, slowly trying to get to him and trying. One of the things in trench rescues, ditch rescues like this is the meticulous effort they have to go to wall off, to shore up any disaster situation, like the wall of all the soil from crashing down on the person.
Absolutely. So that makes it just so much more complicated. Again, as John had mentioned, they're taking it slowly, very carefully to make sure that this person who fell through that hole gets out safely tonight.
We're going to keep watching it. We're going to go to a break, and if anything, any movement at all happens in here where it looks like they might be able to bring this person to safety, we'll get right back on it. We'll be right back.
This is a Wave Breaking News Alert.
Welcome back to Wave News at 5:30 now. Obviously, we got to take you back live for a look at this rescue going on with a worker who fell in a hole at a demolition site. What's really interesting about this is here we are in 2024 and all the high-tech operations you see going on in the world. This one consists of old-school white bucket, 1 bucket at a time, removing soil, being very, very careful because you don't want to dislodge the rocks and the wall of tons of weight just to the right of that man down in that hole.
Yeah, that's why they're taking it so slowly out there. This happened around 11:45 today. The location that we're talking about is on Chestnut Street, very close to U of L Hospital. This site is kind of like a demolition site, the former Community Correctional Center, and it was being demolished. So Lumed Commons, it's going to be a future park and green space kind of in the heart of Lumed. That's what city officials were going to be doing with that site. So it's been there for quite some time, finally going through that demolition process. Was going to see a new future there, but this is where things kind of have stopped today when that worker who was out there with other folks fell into that hole, and then that rubble there piled on top of him. And they've been taking it very slowly to try to get him out safely. There was a crane that we just saw as well.
Yes, lowered some kind of hoist down close, so we didn't know if a rescue was imminent. Here's the thing with covering this kind of thing, we have no idea of knowing how much longer this could go. The fire chief earlier today said anywhere from 1 to 3 hours.
Well past
we're at the 5.5, 6 hour mark of this right now. And as you are well aware, we don't cover very many live trench rescues here. This don't happen very often. But we have one going on right now. Now, Myra, what do we know about the condition of this gentleman? We know that they've been talking with him, but we don't know if he has any broken legs or anything like that.
We don't know that. We do know that he is thankfully breathing. He speaks Spanish, so one of the fire captains who's out there right now has been communicating with him. We got that update probably around 1:30 or so today from the fire chief and also from the mayor. So they have been speaking with him at last check, but who knows as the hours have gone by. You were mentioning, John, just the, having that hole there, just the danger of anything else collapsing on in. So the importance of securing that site to make sure they don't have any additional rubble falling in on them. So that's very important.
This kind of reminds me, do you remember years ago, maybe a couple of decades ago, the big story around the rescue of the girl that fell in the well?
We were just talking about that, yes.
On the west side there.
Yes, we were just talking about that.
But this is a completely different situation.
Yes.
This is lots of debris, tons of rocks that could come crashing in at any point.
And, you think of our first responders, our firefighters, it's been one heck of a week for them. With the explosion that happened in the Clifton area, and now this they're having to deal with. So our thoughts go out to them. They've been working tirelessly.
Okay, sun just set a couple of minutes ago. That's making it more difficult. What is not making it more difficult is the rain has ended. Let's get over to Kevin right now with the first check of the weather here this half hour.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick check and just at a quick count as we were watching those live feeds there. Over 30 firefighters and rescue personnel right there around that crater. You'll notice 55 in Louisville, our current temperature. Areas surrounding us are in the low 50s. It's going to be a slow drop. No rain now, but boy, we had a bunch of it. Over 3 inches here in Louisville, 2.5 Brandenburg, over 2 inches of rain in many areas to our south and west. That rain is easing as it pushes off to the east, but the clouds will hold tough tonight. That'll create that slow drop in temperature, and then we'll bring back some sunshine, not tomorrow, but by Saturday. So hour by hour, the rain chance minimal as we fade it out of the forecast. Skies stay mostly cloudy, and temperatures will drop into the 40s, upper 40s, early tomorrow. The rest of that 10-day, active 10-day forecast coming up in just a bit.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And a reminder, we are watching that rescue operation. We'll get right back to it in just a snap of a finger if something appears to be going on. Let's get into some of the other news headlines now. We're learning more about some of the patients who were hospitalized during Tuesday's explosion. Baptist Health Louisville says they received 5 patients from that explosion. Of those 5, 2 were admitted for observation, and the other 3 have been discharged. We're told those remaining 2 are in good condition. They're conscious and comfortable. Over at U of L Hospital, they've discharged 5 of the people who were hurt in that explosion. 1 person is still at the hospital in stable condition. Now, the U of L Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jason Smith, says those hurt people were treated for burns and blunt force injuries.
And progress continues on the Dosker Manor relocation project. Social workers and clinicians from Ocean, they've been helping 175 residents needing immediate and longer range assistance to move. 44 of those people, they have been placed into direct clinical services for mental health. The rest have received strength-based case management. The Louisville Metro Housing Authority says that their top pressing issue right now is dealing with relocation stress among residents, getting people the necessary services that they need, and fears also to departments that are being vacant. The relocation process is expected to take up to 18 months.
After a 6-day manhunt, police have finally arrested a man who is accused of killing his son in Franklin County. State police say Stephen Gertley was found inside a barn on his own property right before 1:30 this morning. He was arrested and charged with 1 count of murder. Police had been searching for Gertley since Saturday night. State police say Gertley shot his son, 36-year-old Justin Gertley, after they had a fight. Stephen Gertley pleaded not guilty in court today. The bond was set at $500,000 full cash.
New here at 5:30, a Kentucky man is suspected of stealing Nancy Pelosi's laptop during the January 6th Capitol riot. That information was unveiled today in newly unsealed court documents, and those records say that David Slinker was arrested near Edmonton, Kentucky, on October 29th on misdemeanor charges. FBI agents say that they didn't find the stolen laptop when they searched Slinker's Kentucky home in November of 2023. He isn't charged with theft, but an FBI affidavit suggests that he left the Capitol with the stolen computer inside his backpack after other rioters helped him remove it from a conference room. Slinker is one of over 1,500 people charged with federal crimes stealing from the Capitol riot.
During his first administration, President-elect Donald Trump enacted tariffs on steel and aluminum from the European Union, and that led to taxes on the U.S. products in response, including a 25% whiskey tariff.
Jessica Umbro shares the concerns expressed in Frankfurt about these tariffs coming back in 2025.
From 2018 to 2021, Kentucky's distillery industry took a notable hit on exports when this tariff was in place. And industry leaders tell Kentucky lawmakers that they are extremely anxious about the impact that these tariffs could have a second time around.
We're very worried about what tariffs could do to our industry.
Kentucky Distillers Association President Eric Gregory told lawmakers in Frankfurt that the industry is bracing for a second round of tariffs. In December of 2023, the European Union suspended the whiskey tariff until March 31st of 2025. From 2018 to 2021, tariffs on the industry hit 25%, causing American whiskey exports to plunge by 20%. Gregory says the tariffs this time around could be as high as 50%.
It will cripple our exports industries. And at that point, we've never had that problem before, but I cringe to think what could happen with more whiskey from a domestic standpoint that may hurt our small craft distilleries.
As of now, Governor Andy Beshear says it's a situation that's already on his radar. And while he's concerned about tariffs as a general policy, he says that they're going to take things one step at a time.
The bourbon industry creates a lot of Kentucky jobs. So certainly my hope that our federal delegation, which has worked well with this administration in places we agree, will help us protect those important jobs and programs here in Kentucky.
And the EU's whiskey tariffs, they are set to resume on March 21st of next year.
All right, we're going to have a big story coming up here. That's what I'm looking forward to. Mike Tyson getting back in the ring for his first fight in nearly 2 decades. Look at him, though. He's ripped and ready to crush somebody. More on his next highly anticipated matchup and where you can watch. Still ahead.
And one man is out of prison after 16 years behind bars. We're learning details about the investigation that led to the overturning of his conviction.
Now, Wave News.
All right, we want to get you back into this rescue operations that's happening down here at downtown Louisville, there off of Chestnut Street by U of L Health. It's dark now, and crews are working with the small lights there to rescue a person who fell into that hole at a construction site, a demolition site. He was a worker out there and fell into that hole around 11:45 today.
They're going to be able to light it up, so the light is going to be an issue, but not as much of an issue as you might think. And you got to be wondering, Myra, what's going through his head.
Absolutely.
I mean, just think about that. That's what's gripping about watching something like this, is you put yourself in that man's position. You think, down there trapped, people working furiously and smartly, because what's going through your mind when at any moment a wall of rocks could come in.
And that's what happened when he fell. That rubble just kind of fell on top of him. The good thing is the last update that we got around 1:30 from the mayor and the fire chief was that he is breathing. Thankfully, the debris is not on his chest. Yeah. He's Spanish speaking, and but hopefully we know that there is someone out there who is able to communicate with him to kind of hopefully ensure him the progress that's going along.
All right, we're going to keep watching this and continuing on delivering the rest of the day's news, but again, we'll get right back to it as soon as we sense any activity where it appears to be moving forward in the rescue. A Minneapolis man is now free after spending more than a decade behind bars. He'd been serving a life sentence for a murder that the county's top prosecutor now says he did not commit.
Adam Dexter has more on what the state found while reviewing the case. That's now putting the Minneapolis Police Department under new scrutiny.
For the first time in 16 years.
Happy to be out here, man. It's the best week, man. It's the best week yet.
Edgar Barrientos Quintana speaking as a free man.
You know it's going to happen, just system's so slow. You know it's going to happen, you just have to know it.
In 2008, camera crews from the TV show First 48 followed Jesse Michelson's South Minneapolis murder, tracking MPD detectives until they arrested Barrientos Quintana. Minnesota's Conviction Review Unit says the entire process incomplete. Their 130-page report finding the detectives coerced witnesses, didn't disclose evidence at trial, and fabricated parts of the episode entirely.
We know that people make mistakes. We all do. The criminal justice system makes mistakes. These mistakes sometimes slip through the cracks of our legal system.
Chief Brian O'Hara has defended the investigation.
I am concerned that a convicted killer will be set free based only upon a reinterpretation of old evidence rather than the existence of any new facts.
Hey, question for you.
Detective Christopher Gators, who handled the case, now the department's assistant chief of community trust. The county hiring an expert in eyewitness identification to train investigators so this doesn't happen again.
When the criminal legal system does not function ethically, it causes significant harm. Harm to the accused, who in this case spent 16 years in prison for a crime he did not commit.
And the state's conviction review unit says that it's taken a second look at more than 1,000 cases so far. This is just the third time it's recommended a case to be overturned.
Coming up next at 5:30, we're going to have the peek at the 10-day earliest alert. I'll step into the weather garden, give you the ups and downs, a couple of alert days to talk about for next week. We'll do that when we come back. Tonight's Kentucky Lottery jackpots on the screen. The Mega Millions up there, $387 million, and the Powerball jackpots, $130 million.
The Kentucky Lottery, over $5 billion in grants and scholarships.
Mike Tyson hits the boxing ring tomorrow, his first professional fight in almost 2 decades. The 58-year-old former heavyweight champ is going to take on 27-year-old YouTube sensation turned fighter Jake Paul. The two were set to face off earlier this year, but the match was postponed because Tyson experienced an ulcer flare-up. The bout takes place at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Myra just looked at me. Have you had an ulcer flare-up that's prevented a fight?
Not lately.
No? Okay, good. It's going to stream on Netflix.
I wouldn't let it stop me, though.
Starting at, that sounds like an old man injury, doesn't it? My ulcer. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Well, Amazon Prime members, they're going to have the chance to travel to see Wicked before it's officially released. During the sneak peek opportunity, Prime members are going to be able to see Wicked in select theaters on November 18th. That's a full 4 days before it opens across the country. The deal is because of Amazon's partnership with Universal Pictures. Tickets are on sale right now at OzOnAmazon.com.
All right, we keep setting the table for Kevin here to lower the boom with winter, don't we?
I know. We've been talking about just this cold weather that we're just having to get adjusted to. I'm not feeling it. I thought about putting on the heat last night, though.
See, you're not feeling it, and Mr. Wisconsin besides is like, bring it on.
I know.
Oh, this is shorts weather, girl.
Oh, my God,
we're still fine. But this man, he's like the Grim Reaper at the end of the 10-day. That's what's going on.
Yeah, wait till you see this. I mean, alert day, alert day, alert day. We've got a lot of them lined up for different reasons. I'll point out, it's not that bad out here, though it is a little cooler. We're talking 50s, and that's where we've been all day. But at least the rain has ended. I mean, I can't be alone. And when it's raining and in the 50s, it feels so much colder than just when it's in the 50s, right? That rain is out of here for now, but the clouds are still overhead, and we're going to hold on to the cloud cover through the rest of tonight and tomorrow. Note the time here. This is 7 a.m. in the morning through midday, through the afternoon. It's a cloudy Friday, but at least it looks to be mainly dry. So that's some good news. If you still want to do some of that holiday decorating, we'll look ahead to Friday and Saturday for you. 58 for tomorrow. Again, a mostly cloudy sky. Saturday's the better day. We're going to see at least a few peaks of sunshine, and temperatures should be a couple degrees warmer. We'll be back near 60. Sunday's even warmer, but probably not as much sun. All right, so a little give and take for your Saturday, Sunday forecast as we look ahead. Current temperature in Louisville, again, in the 50s. Most places are in the 50s. We're going to slowly drop as the rest of the evening wears on. The rain was appreciable. We saw more than 3 inches of rain here in Louisville. Again, we weren't alone in that category. 2 to 3 inches of rain was common, and some areas to our south and north had lower totals. But we were in that swath of heavier rain through last night and early this morning. We wind up seeing the bulk of the precip move to the east, but there's still a few sprinkles. We've got a very light mist going on out here in the weather garden. So we do have a little light rain or mist coming in, and you see a little more of that farther to the north. Places like Seymour, Indianapolis, Brown County up toward Columbus, seeing some of that light rain. That's on the backside of the low pressure. We'll get that out of here, dry it out tonight and tomorrow, but keep it cloudy. Temperatures are in the 60s for the weekend. And then we fast forward to next week. Tuesday brings a chance for some stronger storms. It's not a guarantee, but it's something we're watching. We flagged it as an alert day. We'll keep an eye on that. If we're able to take that alert day tagged down, we will. But right now it's a question mark because we're dealing with some tropical moisture coming up from the south. Highs in the 70s, cold front moving in. The thing we're uncertain about, the instability. So more on that as we get a little closer. One thing that's been showing up for probably 5 days now has been this blast of cold air that's going to come in on Friday. It's windy, it's colder, and a few snow showers are possible by the end of next week. So we're over a week away from that one. 55, the current temperature. We made it into the 50s, and a place or two hit the low 60s today. It will cool down, upper 40s tonight. Highs tomorrow, 10 degrees warmer is all we'll do with a cloudy sky, 58. And here comes that 10-day forecast. We'll go 60 for Saturday, mid-60s on Sunday and Monday, 72 on Tuesday. That cold front gives us a chance for some stronger storms, and then the colder temperatures. Many will be in the 20s for lows by next weekend.
We have like 72 and then 42.
42 degree Saturday, which means those people who got out already and put the Christmas decorations up outside, kind of smart, right, Kevin?
Yeah, unless they're shorted out because of the recent rain,
Well,
like the weather guard is why you don't see any lights behind me.
Right. All right. Thanks, Kevin. We'll be right back.
All right, we are going back to this breaking news story that we've been following for you. The crews are still out there trying to rescue this worker who fell into a hole at a demolition site in downtown Louisville. You can see the buckets that they're taking down, and they're probably filling it with whatever is down there, the rocks, the debris, to kind of free up some space to get this worker out.
Look on the left. You see literally a rock or a brick at a time being handed in the upper left, and you see a white bucket, not even half filled each time they bring it up, just carefully toiling through the soil, trying to not move anything, cause anything that could trigger a major collapse there to the right. This angle looking down, though, we don't know how far down this gentleman is. We see a lot of hoses. We don't know if one is an oxygen hose going down there. This is really, uncharted territory. You don't see something like this very often.
No, but firefighters, they do train for things like this, so that is a good thing. I don't know what that yellow hose is, but it's been down there. There's also been another hose that you mentioned that they bring back and forth.
Well, keep in mind, he's below ground. So
absolutely.
It's cold and getting colder.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have much more coming up at 6. Stay with us.